Hey folks, Rich here, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. So today is July the 5th, and it's time for our third inspection of the Poppelton Hive, which should have been done last Sunday, and today's a Friday, so it's almost a 7-week inspection instead of a 6-week inspection. The most important thing about this inspection is that it happens after June the 20th. June the 20th being the summer solstice, the longest day and shortest night. And immediately after that point, depending upon where in the country you are, the bees acknowledge the fact that they need to start preparing for winter, and they change their behaviors. But then swarms don't behave quite like mature colonies, and they feel a greater sense of urgency to keep going with things. And down here we had, oh gosh, a good 2 months of drought. And a lot of flowers literally withered or shrunk up and just weren't doing much of anything. Okay, and a lot of trees held off their bloom. Then we got the rain, and everything started blooming. And at this point, here we are in July, where normally we would be in earth for the summer, and there are lots of flowering trees that are still in bloom. The tropical crepe myrtle and the regular crepe myrtles all over the place. Of course, there's been a big surge on all the palm trees since they're getting rained on now. We've had the chaucus, all kinds of things are still in bloom.
Yeah, and I can see that in the apiary we have a few things that need to be trimmed.
Yep. Well, that's partly because we've had a battering of heavy rains here, particularly last week.
A lot of activity.
Yeah. It's a happy, healthy hive, that's for sure. Hello, ladies. Let's just stay calm. But what all this means is I'm hoping that we don't have excessive activity going on in the sense of building new frames or putting wax on new frames. I hope they're expanding outwards, because on the last inspection they weren't making any side attachments. And there's your big problem with a 1-foot deep frame, is that if they don't do side attachments to stabilize everything, then you're going to get stretching of the cells on the top, so that not only will the queen not lay in them, they won't even put honey in them, and in a lot of cases won't even put drone in them. And it makes for a weaker situation. So we need to find out what's going on here. Hello, ladies. Oh, thankfully. So we've got propolis like crazy, even though these frames are on the other side. But I gotta say, this aspect of these frames I am loving, because they don't propolis up in here, and they don't gum up the way, even though the bottoms of them right here on their connection points are propolized, they're not propolizing here on the rabbits. And of course, the sides don't touch. So I'll just take one of these out and show you. Since the sides don't touch, they're not doing anything there.
And those are on the back side of the follower board anyway.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't expect to see.
But they are securing. So it is an indicator. Okay. Taking the follower board out.
A lot of bees on the other side of it.
Yeah, well, oh boy, yeah. Since we gave them room, they're using the room. I'm not going to give them any more space, because we need them to stop. We need them to stop making new comb and start backfilling and doing more work on what they've got. I've got a small hive beetle crawling around on my finger. I want to kill. Hang on a second. Go. Okay, well maybe there is a reason to put uh,
Oh, those pegs?
the bamboo pins in there because they are doing some attachment there,
Hmm.
and they're starting to make two more pieces either side on there. Okay, let's get into what I really want to see here.
Yeah, I forgot what the word is when they do that.
Festooning.
Festooning, you're right.
Okay. Yes. Okay. But they're still not attaching to the sides. They're drawing down.
They're treating it more like a top bar than a Langstroth.
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got nectar at the top. We've got brood like crazy below it. Open brood and cap brood and uh,
Some drone cells.
drone cells. Let's see if we have drone on the other side. Yeah, a few, but nothing like that side. Ladies, I need you to expand. Sideways. Now
Well,
look at
these
that.
are.
They've jumped over this to go further out.
I was going to say, these are still new combs.
Yeah. These are still new combs that were not part of the oh wait a minute. This does have pins. So that was probably the tiny piece that was in there. They've just put more lobes on it. Still lots of open, shiny brood there, but it's going to be drones. You girls are planning something that I don't want you planning. Not at this time of the year. I mean, look at that. That's beautiful, but they're not attaching to the sides the way I want.
And that is older comb.
Yeah, this is a comb that came from the cutout.
Mm-hmm. Lovely brood pattern.
She's a good queen.
Nice and solid.
For such a tiny queen, she's a good one. I don't get it. The complaint they've made about this kind of hive in the 1800s was how difficult it is to take the frames out.
Huh.
And that was done, the complaints were made by people who weren't doing it. And I guess, the
nice brood again.
editor of Bee Culture magazine, who went and got shown how to do it by Poppelton, said, I can do it just as fast as I can do a Langstroth. Ladies, come on. Come on.
So you might actually need to put dowels down the center of the frames in order to give them a little more connection.
Since this isn't very far from being a layens hive, and the layens normally does that, I guess it makes perfect sense.
That might be the next modification.
Yeah. Just the barest of attachments right at the very top.
Mm.
And they're pretty well pulled this one out as far as they want. They've laid brood up in there, and now that the brood is more or less gone, they're starting to backfill with some nectar. I'm sorry, I should do this for you, shouldn't I?
It's okay. I think we got a pretty good view of it. Unless you want me to be queen spotting, in which case
No,
I would need a little more time.
I don't have any reason to concern myself about a there being a queen in here.
I don't think so either. I think it's quite obvious there is.
Well, it was just a couple of days ago.
And the other thing is we don't see any supersedure or swarm cells, even though we see drone
Yeah.
so far.
So far.
But what I also don't see is a lot of honey.
I'm mostly using it to build.
Mm.
We're getting into the area now where if there were cells being built for swarming, this is where they would most likely be. And I'm not seeing it.
Nope. And there's plenty of room at the bottom of these combs to put a swarm cell, or 3 or 8. There's plenty of room between the bottom of the comb and the bottom of the frame if that's what they were going to do.
Boy, you girls are stubborn. Come on.
Yep.
Really need to go the other way. Come on. Not like you want that ventilation up there. You're doing your best to seal it all up. Are you stuck? You're stuck. There you go. Stuck in their own propolis. Okay. Here we are directly over the entrance.
A lot of drones.
A lot of no queen cell. How about this side?
Whoa. They're getting real active.
What got you all hooked up?
The queen's near. If not on that frame, then maybe the next one. That's when they get really active.
Hmm. You might notice I'm trying out a new hat today. These are $5. They're just better than average mosquito netting type caps, but I saw JC the Bee Man wearing one on a video last week, and then it happened to pop up in my Temu feed, so I ordered a couple of them.
You got them from Temu?
Yeah.
You know, the back of your neck is completely exposed.
Well, the bees
between the hat and the shirt.
The bees are in front of me, dear.
True. Since they mostly go for the breath, it makes sense.
No. I don't really want to do it. I'm just going to put this across here for the moment to kind of slow things down. I want to look over this way. I want to see if they're all moving this way or whether we've got activity at this end. Kill the beetle.
And that's the follower board you just moved.
Yeah. Okay, festooning and a little tiny bit. This looks like honeycomb that they're drawing out here. Again, this is not an original uh, piece.
Oh, nice brood pattern on this side.
A little more open. I mean, it's solid in some parts, but some of it is hatched out.
Yeah.
Where it's hatched out, they appear to be putting back nectar.
And they built the comb sticking out on this frame.
Yeah.
So that could prove to be a bit of a problem in the future.
Well, as long as we index the frames the way I'm doing it, it's not a big problem. Lots of brood over here. Some drone. Why so much drone, guys?
I got that side, honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems to be puffed out because they put drone cells on it.
That may explain why the one next to it's puffed out in the same space.
Well, yeah. That's the way this works. Oh, wow.
Now, have they attached that one to the side?
Only at the very, very top edge.
They seem to be giving themselves bee space between the side of the comb and the edges of the frame. Do they not have any bee space between the edge of the frame and the side of the hive?
It's a little snug.
Hmm.
But they would still just do it with holes, usually.
Well, I'm just wondering if you maybe made the sides more, I don't know how exactly to phrase it. If you made the sides a little closer to the middle to give them bee space between the side of the hive and the side of the frame, that maybe they would attach the comb the way you want them to.
Mm-hmm.
Just brainstorming here. You're not going to look at the 4 in the middle?
Nope.
Okay.
I've found out what I wanted to know.
Are you going to put an empty frame where your spacer is?
No, I'm going to move these frames back and put the last frame back over there.
Ah.
Or actually, not even. The frames are all in there. I'm just going to put the spacer back.
I'm curious, though.
What?
Well, the frame in the middle of the brood chamber that is not burnt, that's the one you added last time. Yeah. You want to see what they've done with it?
Okay.
And for those of you who didn't see the prior video, by not burnt, I mean that he kind of burnt
the tops of all the original frames that I was going to go putting the comb on.
Scorched is a better word, yeah. And so that one kind of sticks out because it isn't.
These bees are acting more like they're in a double deep box and filling it up.
Mm.
They've done such a quick job. They've got a lot of attitude.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and that's honey size cells on this side. Are on your side the same way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I finally have a bee bumping me, saying, "We are not happy with you."
So you actually can move quite a large section.
With this style of lug on them, yes.
Huh.
So instead of doing this frame by frame and chasing the bees down frame by frame,
You can do one larger section.
do them all at once.
That's a time saver.
Except for one bee has to go up. There we go.
That's where your follower board was.
No, dear, this is a frame with festooning on it.
Ah.
But immediately started festooning on the next one.
Well, maybe you should let them have it.
I want them to go back and build on what they've got.
Yeah. How does that work for you? How often do the bees do what you want?
Well, it's not that big a problem most of the time.
I think the bees mostly do what the bees want.
Yeah, there's that. All right.
And now that you've closed it up, the activity in the front of the hive has gone back to what it was before we went in.
Well, since I'm standing over here and you're over there, had the activity gone up significantly?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when you took out that frame right over the entrance where they had a lot of brood, they didn't like it at all. And that's why I thought the queen might have been in that area. That's been a pattern I've noticed.
Yeah.
And don't worry, the bees that are sitting on top of these frames can easily go down. There's little notches.
Well,
and they can go down in the notch.
There is about a 1/4 inch lift at either end here. And yeah, I've put it on the wrong way before, so both sides look like this.
I don't think it makes that much difference, does it?
Well, it'd be neater if I always did it right every time instead of putzing up. Well, they're enjoying the hive. All that extra lovely insulation they've got in there. They're enjoying our current nectar crop just fine. I'm just a little worried I'm going to run out of room because while I can work out a method for supering them if I had to, I don't want to. For that matter, I could work out a method for supering them with some medium Langstroth frames. I don't even have to build more of these. I can diddle and fiddle and set them up.
Or you could do a split.
No, not really, because I would have to build more of these frames. I only intended on building one box of this.
So, this is true. You'd have to actually do a cutout rather than a split.
So I'm going to leave them like this. I'm not going to give them any extra room because I want them to do more work on the stuff they've already got. And they've got plenty of work to do. So that should hold us until we get to Sunday week after next. We want to do this again. So the continuing saga of let's see what goes on with this hive so far. Woohoo!
Any plans? Any conclusions?
Oh, conclusions. Well, I'm going to do a whole video that details some of that because I went ahead and ordered some lay-ins frames. The one thing Poppelton said on more than one occasion over 20 years, when asked if he was going to start over from scratch, would he do anything differently? And he said repeatedly that if he had it to do all over again and didn't have to, and he was investing differently, he would make the frames between an inch and 1.5 inches wider. same depth, but an inch and a half wider, and that brings you right into the range of a lay-ins frame. Of course, lay-ins frames are like this deep, but they also have lay-ins mediums, as it were, which are actually slightly less than 12 inches. But I just ordered and picked up some lay-ins frames and cut them to 1 foot, uh, just to give us an illustration on this that, yeah, don't make a Poppins hive. Just go ahead and
You mean Poppelton?
or Poppelton hive. Don't make a Poppelton hive. If you want to explore this concept, do it with a lay-ins frame. And if you're in South Florida, I would suggest strongly cutting them down to 1 foot, because I just don't think that the heat down here is going to work for a deeper frame. And since he was able to work with a 1 foot frame for 30 years, is it right, 30? Let's see. Yeah, 25 years, I'd say. Since he worked with them for 25 years down here, I would imagine that they must be pretty successful, because he didn't have any comments to the extent about them falling apart or collapsing comb or anything.
I'm more interested in the honey production at this point, because he had so much better honey production from these type of hives, but I think it's really too soon to tell. We haven't had a honey flow. We got to wait till probably next spring or even a year from now before we can really give that a definitive answer.
Yeah, it could be. I'm noticing in today's inspection that some of the cells that have had brood in them are being backfilled, and they're putting brood in new construction and backfilling. When I say old construction, we're only talking about things that are 2 months old, 3 months old, maybe at the tops. I'd have to calculate that, but yeah, I have a funny feeling that they're moving their brood, instead of keeping their brood right over the entrance. They do have brood over the entrance, but they're also pushing the brood out a whole lot further, which is probably a result of mine having put a screen bottom in there. They're getting sufficient ventilation that they're expanding their brood nest further than they would have with a Poppelton hive in 1910, because I used that screen bottom. It may be that that is the break point on there, that if we use anything other than a solid bottom, that we're not going to get the true result. We're going to get too much expansion. But we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, June 20th was just a couple of weeks ago. Let's see what happens in another month. See if they've started backfilling with lots and lots of nectar and started reducing their brood. Well, that's it for the moment. This has been Rich, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this with your friends.
Oh, before we go, and the Timu veil is okay?
The visibility is fantastic. It's a finer mesh than the regular caps that I wear, and this is extremely comfortable. And yeah, I would not go after aggressive, wild colonies in this that we don't know about. I wouldn't be wearing this to start with, because as you said, it leaves you kind of exposed. But as far as keeping the bees out of my ears, eyes, nose, and mouth, it's doing a great job. It is super light. I mean, they could sting me through this up here if it occurred to them. Hopefully it just doesn't occur to them, because it's right on my head. But it's super light, very stable. I'm enjoying it. So, see y'all later.